So now if we press tab or I, we should get our inventory, and we do. And if we go to pick up our items, it works. And that's nice. Hey there, I'm your host Lesawi, and this is part 3 of the Easy Inventory series. In today's video, we'll be creating the inventory pickup function and the UI. So with that said, let's begin. Let's start by going to our content drawer, to our inventory folder, and let's open up our inventory component. Now in here, we want to add in a few variables. So our first variable will be our item slots, and we want this to be of type s_item slot. So that's from the previous episode, and we'll make this an array because it's a list. And our next variable will be our inventory size. Now this you want to be single and you want to be an integer. And while we're here, let's also create an event dispatcher called onInventoryUpdated. So we'll be calling this whenever we need to refresh our inventory. Just like that, let's create a custom event, which we can call update inventory. And we can call then our event dispatcher here. So drag and call. Cool. And we can get rid of this. And on event begin play, we want to grab in our item slots and do resize. So we will resize this array to whatever the inventory size is. We can drag that, plug it in there, and on start, we'll do this code like so. And let's compile and save that. And for our first function in here, we'll do print inventory. And we just want to print whatever our list is. So we'll grab this to a for each loop. So for every single one of them, we'll do a print string. Now in here, I want a few things. So if we drag out and do append, we can add in a few more things. So I want 5. I want the index that it's at. So the number in the list. I want then to break this open. I want my item ID. And lastly, I want to know the quantity. And we'll separate them by doing a colon, space, whoops, double colon, space, and we'll do space equals space, like so. So that will then give us the number, the item ID, and the item quantity. So we could test this out if we go to our third person character, because we already have this inventory component added. It's right there. So in here, if we call that and do a custom event, or not a custom event, can I do keyboard 1? Yeah, we can. And whenever 1 is pressed, we'll drag out and print inventory. So we're calling that function within this component. And let's compile and save. And if we press 1 on the keyboard, we'll get a list. Now, because we have 0, we should just get nothing. We get nothing. So if we open our player, click on the inventory, we can add in our inventory size. So let's say we have 21 slots. Compile and save. So it'll go from 0 to 20. And there we are, 0 to 20. Back inside of our inventory component, we'll go ahead and create another function. Let's call it get item data. So in here, we want to add in our item ID. And this will be of type name. And we'll do get row, get data table row, plug that in. Data table we have selected there. And we'll do a return. And we'll return this out row. And let's call it item data. And let's compile and save that. Next, we'll go ahead and create another function, and this will be our pickup function. So let's call it pickup. In here, we want a few things. We want to know the item ID, so the item we're trying to pick up, and how much there are of it. So item quantity. And we'll make it our integer. Okay, so in here, we'll promote this integer to a local variable. So it's only in this blueprint or this function even. Local underscore item quantity. And if this item quantity is greater than 0 and Boolean, and we're not full in the inventory. So we'll do mode to local variable, local is full. So if the inventory isn't full and there are items to pick up, we'll pick them up. So inventory is not Boolean, so not full, not true. And like that, we'll then do a while loop. So while this condition is true, we'll continue to pick up items. So next we want to do a function called find matching slot. So first we want to see, are there any available matching slots in the inventory? If there are, we'll add it to that specific slot. If not, we'll go and check for any new available slots. And if there are, we'll add it. If there aren't, we'll return as inventory is full. So in here, we'll do item ID. And we want to know the name. And we'll do a get of item slots and do a for each loop. So we are going to compare this item ID with anything and everything inside of this array. So we'll do break and we'll do get item ID. So this item ID gets this there, the same thing, and we'll do an equals equals. So if this is equal to this guy, and we'll do a and Boolean, because I not only want to check for the matching items, I want to see if the matching item has enough slot space to fit more items in there. So we'll do, we'll get the item data. We can make this, by the way, a pure function. We'll grab this, plug it in there. We'll get the item data, and we want to get the item quantity. So we should actually name this slightly different, maybe, or to be more clear. So if we go to our inventory, item data, I should have called it, not item data, our s_item info. Instead of calling it item quantity, we should just call it slot quantity or max slot size, whatever you like. So in here, then this will change. And if this is less than the slot quantity, we'll go ahead and continue this logic. So we'll do a branch, b left mouse. This is true. We want to return a Boolean as was it successful or not. And we want to return the index that it found to be free. So that index is going to come from the array. Like that. Success true. And if this whole array gets completed, and if we haven't returned in here first, because remember, a return node will finish this function and it'll never get to the complete section. So if it completes this whole thing by chance, we then return false and -1 to indicate a negative value. So we'll compile and save that. Back inside of our pickup function, we'll grab our find matching slot, plug it in there, and we can get our item ID. Again, the same thing here. Just a little shortcut so we don't have to drag pins around. We'll get a branch and we'll see if we found a matching item. So if we have, we'll add it to the slot. If we haven't, we'll create a new slot. So let's go ahead and create add to new slot, like so. And in here, we want to know a few things. We want to know 3 things. Item ID, we're adding, so name, how much of that item, so item quantity, and the index we're adding it at. So with that, we then will grab our item slots and do set array element. And we can break this open, or not break, make. Whenever you drag from left to right, it's usually break. Whenever it's left or right to left, it's a make. So item ID, item quantity, and index right there. And there we go. Let's compile and save that. And before we actually implement this function here, we need to check, do we have available slots? So we need to grab a branch that will go in here. If this is false, if we don't have anything matching, and we need to check for that. So we'll create another function called any available slots. And in here, we'll drag our array, do a for each loop. And essentially, we want to pretty much similar things like in find matching slot, except we'll check the item quantity. If it's equal to 0, that means that slot has nothing in there, so it must be empty. So we'll grab a branch, plug it in there. If it returns true, we'll be happy to add our item return node. You want to again return the success and the index. So success and index. So true here, and index comes from this guy here. That's the index that happens to be free. So we'll create our new item there. And if it again returns false, completes the whole cycle, false and -1 for a null value. So we'll compile and save that. And back in our pickup function, we can add this in. Again, we can make it a pure function here for a check. And then index goes in the index. And since we're doing a while loop, we're adding one at a time. So we'll do item quantity 1. Item ID can come from here. And once we've done that, we can then at the very end do a grab this item local item quantity and do a minus for decrementation. So we've added one, we'll then remove it from this temporary stash. And that's if we haven't found a matching slot. If we have, we want to add it in. So for that, we'll create another function called add to slot or add to matching slot, whatever you like. In here, we want two things. We want the index and the item quantity we're adding. So index and item quantity. Let's grab our item slots, do a get. So we'll get a copy of this index there. We want to break this open or split this open, however you like. And we'll add to this item quantity. So get item quantity. Again, just a little shortcut. We're not dragging lines around. And with that, I want to get again this guy, and we'll do set array element. So we're overriding data. And we're overriding that data with this index here. So you can drag it in or just get index. You like your code looking pretty, and we'll make. And then we can add to this our item ID and then that item quantity. And let's compile and save it. And back in our pickup function, add to slot. So we have our index coming in there. And again, we're just adding one at a time. So 1. And we again want to decrement, so we can drag this in there. And at the very end, we'll return. And we want to return, was it successful in adding the item? So we'll do success and the item quantity left, if there was any. And just before we do, we also want to update our inventory. So let's go ahead and grab that. So, and in here, we want to uncompleted. We'll grab this as well. Plug it in. And for the success, what we want to do is we'll drag local is not full. And the item quantity left will be, you can just get that there. Okay, so with that, we should be able to test something. So let's compile and save. Next, we want to go ahead and we want to update that pickup logic in our item data. So let's open that up. And in our item data component, VPC_item data, we'll take this. And from the interactor, we'll do get component by class. And the class we're looking for is our inventory component. And if this is valid, what we'll do is we'll then do pickup. So we'll call the function we just made. Now for our item ID, this can come from the item data. So we'll do break. We have our item ID there. We can hide anything unconnected. And for the item quantity, right there as well. So we've been successful. If true, only then we'll destroy the actor. And if false, well, then we'll do nothing. So let's compile and save this. And we should be able to test this now. So my Unreal just crashed, but I think everything is good. So let's hit play. And now we should be able to print our inventory, first of all. So we have 0 and none in everything. And if we pick this up, we get our health potion. Pick up another one, get it, and another one, and we get it. Now, I do realize that the max quantity has been set to 1 in each of these guys. So if I were to duplicate the health potion and hit play, the max stack size is 1. So if I pick up another health potion, it'll go to a new slot. Now we don't want that. So in our item data, instead of the max stack size, slot quantity being 1, let's say something like 3. 3, and we'll do 5, maybe for the stamina potion. So if we go ahead and create 5 of these guys, Alt, copy, let's make 6. We'll do 4 of these guys, and we can do 4 of these guys as well. A lot of potions. So again, nothing there. They're being added to the same stack. So that's working nice. So we've reached 3. It's been added to a new stack. And same here, 3, new stack. And then this should stack to 5. It does. And if we pick up an extra, it'll go to another stack. Now to give this some extra flair, we can go back to our inventory component. And in here then we can do another function called get item sound effects. In here we'll do a item ID, call it name, and we'll do get item data, do a break, and we want to return our sound effects. So let's do the return node and drag this in there. And we can then create another function called play sound effects. And in here, we'll do get owner. So ourselves, we'll do get actor location. And out here, we'll do then play sound at location. We got that, and we got the sound. Sound will go into there as an input. Let's compile and save that. And we can also hide these guys. This can be a pure function as well. And back in our pickup function, we can, before output here, we'll do get item sound effects, play item sound effects, and we can steal the item ID, plug it in here. And if we break the sound effects open, we get access to our pickup, drop and move. And since we're picking up, we'll do pickup. We can hide the rest and just connect execution pin there and there. And there we are. This is looking nice. So now if we pick up something, we should get a sound. So compile, save, and play. And there we go. Next, we'll go ahead and do some work on the inventory UI. So let's go to our inventory folder, UI, and let's open the inventory UI up. And in here, I want to do a canvas panel to start things off, like so. On top of this, I want to do a border. This and this border, we can drag to the bottom. So hold Control Shift. Go to anchors and select the corner here. Now we can give it some size. So for size, let's do 560 by 600. And we'll do position X 20 and we'll do -20 on Y. Now for the background color itself, we can click on the brush, make it a little bit darker and do like 0.3, 0.4, whatever you like. Something like that. Then we'll do a vertical box inside of this border with a padding of, let's say, 0, like so. And with that, we'll add another border inside this vertical box for the title. And we'll do another border for the inventory. So we can drag it again to the vertical box, select both of these, so hold Control and do fill. Now this doesn't need to be this big. So what we can do is 0.1 on the fill. Again, brush color, you can set to 0 on that or whatever you like. And for this, we'll do the same. So brush color, we'll do 0 for now and hit OK. With that, then I'll get a text for the title in the border here. We can do center align, adding, let's say, what do we do? 10. And we'll say inventory. And we'll leave it at 24 on the size. That's fine. Next, then I want to grab a scroll box into the border. So this will allow you to like scroll down if you ever run out of space on the screen with how many slots you have. That's handy to get. And we'll do a wrap box. Now this wrap box you want to be variable because we want to add items to it. So we'll call it wrap box underscore inventory. And we'll make it fill. And scroll box will do padding, let's say 10. And that's looking pretty nice. So let's compile and save that. And next, let's head over to our event graph. Now inside here, we'll go ahead and create a function called create item slots. Now for creating our item slots, we need to create an item widget. So for that, we'll go into our content drawer, and in here, let's create a user interface widget blueprint, and we'll call this our WB underscore item slot UI. And if we open this up, I want to first add in 2 variables, and we'll need to know about the item ID, like so. We need to know about the item quantity. So this will be a integer. We want to know about the index, and we want to know about the inventory component. And this will be of type BPC underscore inventory. And all of these you want to make instance editable, like so, because we'll be passing in those values. Like those values don't exist in this blueprint. They need to be gotten from somewhere, so we'll be passing them in from our inventory UI. So if we compile and save, we'll come back to the designer in a moment. But in the inventory UI, we can get our wrap box. First clear it before adding anything to it. We don't want any duplicates. And we'll then do inventory component get, a validated get. And if this is valid, we'll go ahead and create our widgets. So our item slots. And we see all of these parameters. So before we even go ahead and do that, from the inventory component, let's get that array. So get item slots. And for every single one that we have, we'll create a widget in our wrap box. So this goes there. We'll break this array element open for the item IDs and the item quantities. Then the indexes. And lastly, we'll add in the inventory component as well, like so. And we'll then get our wrap box once again and do add child to wrap box. Plug it in, and we're golden. And that's looking good. Now, once this is completed, we want to refresh our inventory. So if you remember, we've created our event dispatcher in our inventory component. So we can call it or bind to it. So we called it on inventory updated. So we'll bind to it. When we're binding to it, we can call it an event, or yeah, we can call an event essentially, or make one. So we'll create an event, but we'll call this event here. So we'll do create item slots. So when it's finished, it's going to bind to it and it's going to listen again to when it needs to update itself. So that's looking nice. Let's compile and save that. In our event graph then, on event preconstruct, what we want to do is we want to get a hold of our player controller, and we want to do set show mouse cursor. So when we're creating our inventory, we want to show the mouse. That's the first thing we'll do. And then I want to do set input game mode and UI. We'll do it this way. Double click on that, drag it down. For the widget to focus, we can do ourselves, so do self. And at the very end, we want to create our item slots, so the function we made. And let's also go ahead and create a custom event called refresh inventory. And in this guy, we'll drag our inventory component to a set, drag the blue pin in there. That will create an input. And then this will also go into our set show mouse cursor. So we have two ways of refreshing that. And let's go down and do event destruct. So when this inventory is destroyed, we want to hide the mouse. So we'll grab that as well. But we'll do is valid. Now we're checking, is this valid? Because if our inventory controller is destroyed, so if we end the game, this will become invalid and we'll get an error. So we'll just check that for the error. And once this is done, we'll do set input game, if I can spell this, input game only. There we go. And looking nice. So let's compile and save. Next, let's go ahead and fill up our item slot. So in the designer, what we want to do is we'll grab a size box. Now this size box can be of any size you like. So we'll do override the width and the height. Now I like to go for, let's go for 80. Sounds reasonable. And we'll do fill screen to desired. That's what we get. Now in here then we can play around and we'll get a button. And for the button, go to style, normal padding to 0, pressed padding to 0, for the background color to 0. And in there then we'll do a border, like so. And this border will fill and we'll do 0. Oops, I missed it there. There we go. For the color, again, up to you. I'll do something like a nice dark color like that, maybe even darker, and we're good. And on top of this, we'll do an overlay. This overlay you want to be, again, padding 0, and we make it variable. Now, the reason we're making this variable is that if there is an item in there, we want to show the image and the quantity. And if there is no item in there, we don't want to show that at all. So we'll use the overlay as basically a masking to the actual item slot. So that's variable. We can leave it called overlay 01 even. That's fine. And on top of this, we'll then add our items. So our images, I mean. So image goes there. And we'll make this fill horizontally, fill vertically. Padding, we can do 2 to give us that nice little border around the edges. Let's also name this img underscore item icon. And we also want text. So the quantity. So drag this to your overlay. Now you won't see anything because it's white. So let's hide that. For the moment being, size, we'll do 8. Horizontal and vertical alignment. Click on the third one. So in the corner at the bottom, padding, we'll do 2, 0. And that's because if we type in 10 or whatever number you like, we can see it's bringing us a little bit off the edge. Same like here. So that's 0, that's 2. And we can bring this back. Now that will be set in the code. So let's compile and save. And let's go to the event graph. Inside here then, we'll go ahead and create a function called set item data. And we want to get our item ID and do a get row, like so, and get our item data table. Then we'll do a break. So if we find it, we'll set our image, we'll set our text, which did I not make variable? Probably not. Yeah. You want this variable, and let's call it txt underscore item quantity. Good to have there, and we'll get it. So we can set the brush of this, set brush from texture, and texture is our icons, like so, like that. Now the quantity doesn't come from here. That's the max quantity. The quantity itself comes from the item quantity we have here. Let's hide that then. Drag that there. And from here, we'll do set text like this. Drag that there. Text goes in there and it should convert it for you. So that's if the row is found. And if it is, remember our overlay, set visibility. So if this is visible, the image and the texture or the text will be visible because they're under it. And if it's not, they won't be. So if the row is not found, we'll simply do collapse. And you can do collapse or hidden. Collapse basically doesn't exist in the UI space, and visible still or hidden still does. But that's fine. So let's compile and save it, and we'll add this to our event or pre-construct. Drag it and oops, I'm all over the place. Let's set it. And that should be it. So let's compile and save that. So with all of that done, we should be able to hit play and press tab for our inventory, and it works. Now it's not really separated or anything, so it just looks like a mess. So let's go back into our item slot, and on the root of this, let's make it focusable first of all, and let's give it some padding. So padding, go in here, click 2, some padding, compile and save. And if we go back, press tab, boom, there we are. And if we pick this up, it should update and add to our inventory. Another thing that I noticed is that we have our mouse on the screen this whole time. So that's on me. If we go to our inventory UI, inside here, we want to make sure the mouse is hidden. Compile and save that. And if we go back, we now should be able to hide the mouse, and that works. So this is it for this video. In the next episode, we'll be creating a transfer function for our inventory. So that said, I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, leave a like, and as always, happy developing.